Hello. Okay. I'm stuck. Oh no. Oh no. Got my coffee. Yep. All right. Let's talk about Endwar 2024 edition. This is my second time recording this. I hope this looks a lot better than I did last time. It's like 3 hours wasted. Crazy that this will be my third Endwar recap on this channel. I feel like I'm kind of the only one doing it this year. So as per usual, I'll try to give my honest and unbiased opinions of the event. And because this is the first Endwar in some time that will be in the same location, it's returned to UNC Charlotte. I'll try to do a little bit of comparing to last year, see if things have improved at UNCC, just see if things are the status quo. So not only am I just comparing Endwar from last year to this year in terms of like what I liked and didn't like, but I'm also specifically comparing the same team, the same campus, a lot of the similar elements. So I think that'll be cool. Maybe if you're watching, you'll be able to recognize some locations. Probably not. It's a pretty complicated campus, but I think that's why it's great. The biggest change to the schedule this year was moving Foam Pro Tour from Sunday to Friday at the same time in tandem as FoamCon in the same venue. And then Endwar, instead of just being on Saturday, was moved from Saturday and then had a little bit on Sunday to finish the day out. And I think that I just think that's a great idea because now it's a lot more in line with a lot of other invitationals at least in the United States, at least the ones that put the competition event first and then do some of the fun stuff after. Plus, because FoamCon and Foam Pro Tour share the same venue this year, it brings a lot of spectators who were at FoamCon over to Foam Pro Tour to heighten that competition. So with all that out of the way, let's get on to the rest of the video. I left South Carolina on Friday, probably around like 9:30 a.m. And headed towards UNC Charlotte in the... That was the screen door. Sorry. I left South Carolina on Friday and headed towards Halton Arena at UNC Charlotte, where Foam Pro Tour and FoamCon were going to be held this year. The event, I think, was supposed to start at 10, so I got there like probably 30 minutes late or so, which I did similarly last year, to be fair. Based on last year's event, attendance at the booths represented and just like kind of the vibe last year. So I figured showing up 30 minutes late to a multi-hour event was not going to be a big deal. And I was pleasantly surprised. This year was absolutely packed. This is probably the liveliest FoamCon we've had since 2022's event in Rochester. Part of that in my mind was vendors having a lot more lead time to show up this year, because last year they had about a month between the event being announced in Charlotte to the event starting. So, it made it easier to plan flights and all that. But I think the venue itself made a huge difference. Last year's venue was in a banquet hall on the 3rd floor of the Student Union, and it was a very square venue space that was really, I think it was a little bit too big for what we needed. All the booths were on the walls as per usual, and then there was an empty area in the center that was supposed to be where, we could fire blasters, probably do our FPS checks, maybe have a target range, whatever. But at the last minute, the administration of, I think the Student Union itself said they didn't want any blasters fired in the building. So it left that space in the center, which is like 50 by 50 feet, maybe 100 by 100 feet, to be honest, just kind of like vacant and open, and made the whole event feel a lot more vacant than it really was. If we were in a smaller venue space, it would have made those like 15 booths at least feel a little bit more lively. So because the foyer of Halton Arena was a more rectangular and skinny venue, again, we had more booths this year for sure, but because it was a smaller venue space, it made everything feel a lot more alive and made it feel kind of like a market, or like a convention hall that you would typically see at like a legitimate convention space. It started to really feel like I was at a convention and not just a bunch of people I know in Nerf having tables and showing off random things. It was a lot easier to just bounce back and forth between vendors, eavesdrop on conversations at other booths, and vendors could communicate easily to their neighbors from all sides, on the sides and on the front, because instead of having like 50, 75 feet in between, it was like maybe 10, 15 feet at most. So it was really easy for you to go from one table to another in a diagonal pattern versus like following one wall, following another wall, and maybe not even getting to the third wall and just leaving the venue, which always sucks for people when like you're the last booth at the end of a row and like you see people kind of go along, and then they just like, oh, we'll go to lunch and just skip you. So it made it a lot easier for people to bounce back and forth. I think Halton Arena normally had a lot of entrances into it, but they closed all those off, I think mostly for safety, and then had the singular main entrance at the very end as the main entry and exit point for FoamCon. And then opposite that, on the very back of the venue, were the biggest sellers in my mind, you know, Silver Fox Industries, Containment Crew. And I think that was a really smart place to put them because it gave any patron that wanted to get to them only a chance to still check out any other booth along the way there or on the way back from getting to purchase anything or seeing what their wares were. I could say, oh, that's a cool, you know, that's a cool blaster, or oh, that's a cool venue or a cool club. I'm going to check them on the way back. So I think having them all the way back was a good idea. And then the FPS check for Foam Pro Tour and then later in the day Endwar was at the very front of the venue. So if there was any sort of log jam going on with that, with people pulling out their blasters, trying to get their FPS checked, and also just people who were only there to get their blasters checked, could do that very easily from the front of the venue. And then there was still a little bit of room at the front of the foyer that they could kind of maneuver a line out to and not get in the way of FoamCon at all. I thought having those two areas separate and then having the center of FoamCon easily accessible was really smart. And then access to the Foam Pro Tour field was on the side at the tunnels that led into the arena. And of course, any tunnels to an arena are going to be wide, easily accessible for foot travel, and just generally very spacious, made it easy to know where to go. In my mind, this all created a very predictable foot travel path for every patron. It meant that the flow of traffic was manageable, not just for the teams running the event, but also probably for security and administration of the building. This arguably was the best designed floor plan I've seen to date. So shout out to Spam, who does a lot of the logistics plans, where the tables are going to go, which booths should go next to each other. And also Drax, a team of volunteers, and COG, UNC Charlotte's kind of event staff, who physically helped set up the building of that day, you know, getting the booths where they needed to go, getting all the amenities like power and things like I needed for our booths. So hats off to them. The vibes I just saw from everyone were really great. Everyone was having a blast. Seemed like everyone was enjoying being there and seeing what people had. Especially because, you know, some of these people weren't even at Endwar last year, so maybe 2 years for some of these people who haven't seen friends or clubs and so on and so forth. At the front of the venue was a large registration table, so that's where, you know, I registered my blaster and you know, got myself registered at the event. So returning from last year, we were also given safety information cards, and we registered for Endwar, which had, you know, information about the campus police, QR codes for the Discord, for the player's handbook, which is also something that was very useful this year, places to put our name, our role for the event, and also a strike counter. So again, 3 strikes are out. This is a great way for the administration to handle any sort of discrepancy in behavior. So we kept this on our person for the entire event. We're also given our bandana here. I'll show this because I feel like people want to see this every year. So because it was a safari theme, I don't even know if that's on camera. So because it was a safari theme, you know, is like a riverboat. I think it's Drac there. I don't know. Drac's team also produced a set of, I assume, Magic the Gathering like playing cards, and I assume they probably still work for Magic the Gathering. So they have like their Endwar and like their business logo and stuff, and then they have like cards here. I'll scan these in, but I grabbed like as much as I could, all the different versions, and like they were just free to grab. I think I probably grabbed too many, but I wanted to document it here. And they had like some like limited edition ones, some like, I think like some shiny rare ones. Not sure who those were for, but I guess they just wanted to make them and they just gave them out for free. They also bought pizza for the entire venue for lunch, which is welcomed. I thought it was just for their team, but I was offered it. So I saw other booth vendors and even attendees getting pizza. So that was really awesome that they were able to get that done. Outside of the convention, the venue itself, I really liked. It had some great vaulted ceilings and large windows, which brought in a ton of natural light. It was a beautiful day that day, although hot. We were inside, so we got all this, you know, wonderful light coming in. In all the chaos, I didn't manage to even grab a picture of my booth this year. I've done it every year except this year, which is a bummer, because this I felt like was the year I really put a lot of effort into my signage for my wares and stuff. You know, I like properly printed signs. I didn't just use masking tape to tape numbers onto my table for prices like I usually do. But I have some pictures of them. I'll at least post them here. I sold my usual set of stickers, patches, tiny crossbow keychains were back this year. The 1/4 size crossbow keychains in purple this time. Showcased my printed parts from the crossbow build. So actually, you know, the 1-to-1 scale things like the grip and the foregrip and the stock I had pieces of. So it was really cool to see people interact with that, talk design, talk about my design philosophy with people. It seemed like a lot of people were really interested in that project kind of continuing. As well as new additions this year, like my map holder for the player map. So, you know, last year I just printed off the UNC Charlotte map, but this year I properly designed the map from scratch because their map kind of sucks. Sorry, guys. But so that was like that on tabloid size paper, folding it up. And then I made this guy, which is just goes on your molly belt or any sort of molly attachment. It's got some things here and it has a little tongue that slides in, clips to your belt. I'll probably have some B-roll of that. And it basically just has like a little clip and you slide that in and it just stays in place. Because I initially was going to put this in my pocket of my shirt and I felt like it was going to get too sweaty, so I wanted to have it on my belt and easily accessible. So I had these. Some people really wanted these, so I sold those. And I also have my computer there running just a full loop of last year's documentary for people to watch. So I didn't really have the volume up too high, so I think I don't know if it worked out too well, but I did see a lot of people who came by and were like, oh, well, yeah, I loved your video last year. I can't wait to see you do it this year. So for you, here it is. I probably left my booth vacant a little too much just in general. I was just too excited to see everything going around in the venue this year. So if you wanted to see me and couldn't, sorry, I'll try to be back next year. You can message me and if you have anything important you want to say or any shout out or kudos. So in walking around, seeing things, I saw the Atlanta Blaster Club, which used to be the SCNC and is now, again, the ABC. So they had some cool merch. They were the ones who printed a full canvas version of my map. So I showed you the paper version. This is the full canvas. So yeah, like this is nuts. So this is on like really nice canvas. It's massive. So they did some pre-orders of this. And I was basically like, you know, do I have to pay for one? Because I designed the whole thing. And they're like, no, we'll give you one. So that was cool. A lot of people thought I was selling those. So a lot of people came up to me and were like, do you have any more maps? I was like, I'm not. You can print them. I'm not the one making that. So I'm hoping this year we can actually include that as a part of an Endwar purchasable item. Not like from a booth that's separate from Endwar, but a part of the Endwar team actually selling that type of merchandise. It seemed like a lot of people really liked the map who bought it, and a lot of people were really jealous who didn't get it. So next year we got to make that happen. Boomstick Mods also dropped off my Endwar badge with the Saber booth. So thank you guys for delivering that to me, and thank you, Boom. Basically, it's just a name tag. You know, it has your logo at the top, whatever it may be. This is my store logo, of course, my like kind of screen name, and then it has the event itself, so Endwar 2024. And you can just walk around FoamCon with this on like a lanyard, so people can know who you are if they don't know your face. And then for the invitational, whatever, so for this, it's Endwar, there would be another badge clipped onto the back that's also 3D printed. And instead of it being white on black, it's white on pink. And instead of having your logo, it's brain. And so when you get tagged out during your invitational, during HvZ, you physically unclip that from the back and then give the zombie your brain, which I think is such a cool little thing. And then, of course, it has your name on it, so they get to collect your brain. And I think it's just a clever idea. It makes a really great morale souvenir during the invitational for yourself and the zombies to collect them. And then if you wanted to, you could almost do like a jersey swap for like professional sports, and like I could trade this badge to someone else with a badge at the event. He designs them for a lot of the larger invitationals, especially the one close to him that he helps run, Maryland Mayhem. So it's a lot of fun when you have 30 or 40 of these rolling around. And if you're a zombie, you have a chance to collect a bunch during the day. So definitely keep an eye and see if he's doing any of these for your next large scale invitational you plan on going to, and see if you can commission one for yourself. All right, so there's your shout out, Boom. So now you got to come back down to an Endwar. This is the second one you missed. So I gave you a shout out. You got to come down for me, man. He helps co-host the Dart Jam podcast with me, so he's a good friend of mine. I saw some incredible builds on display. I saw Detroit Dartworks had their Jin on display there. I saw Adam from Old Fusion Designs with a lot of the Mauser stuff. So just a lot of cool flywheel stuff that I usually not really into, but at least I got to see some cool 3D print work and talk about design philosophy. I saw the Scared tactical gear in person, which looked great. I know those are already starting to kind of reach people, so I got to see that pretty early. Got to see the mag holder itself and talk about how the mag holder design was made with them. So I think people are going to really enjoy that. I can't wait to see more colorful tactical gear in this hobby. So next year, I'm hoping to see a lot of that. I saw my friend David, who I competed with at combo number 5 at Foam Pro Tour with in 2022, as well as MasterChef, both really cool guys. I said hi to Valor, Silver Fox, Containment Crew, Detroit Dartworks and Co., kind of the usual suspects. But unusual suspect being Boba Lolo, who I had no idea was going to be there. I was legitimately shocked to see him because I thought he was out of the hobby.
Look at Opti Crush.
What's up, big guy? Oh, man, it's good to see you.
I didn't realize that a part of the goals in the Scare Tactile Kickstarter was that he would go to Endwar. It was a great reunion for us. We go back really far. Like, we've been going to events in the Southeast and Atlanta since like probably 2011. So he's always been a cool guy to me. So I loved seeing him. Miss you, man. Hope you're doing well. It was also just good seeing some of the teams competing at Foam Pro Tour, like Team Frumble, RJ and his team, some of the people of Impact Dart League, which is a local Atlanta-based scene. So eventually I meandered my way a few different times to the field to kind of see what was going on. Also just see the arena itself. It was amazing. It was a nice change of pace not having to compete this year with all the stress and anxiety, hoping I don't let my team down. Also could just like record footage and just kind of goof off, joke around with different teams. And also, it wasn't sweltering this year. It wasn't outside this year. Luckily, it was indoors again, which is thankful. These events need to be indoors if you can have it. So last year on Sunday was so bad. Very much, I think everyone was happy we were indoors again. So yeah, so the field wasn't on the basketball court itself, which is kind of a bummer. I would have loved to have that just for like the optics of that, but I totally understood why that couldn't happen. Probably didn't even get to the basketball team for them to veto it. The administration was probably like, absolutely not. We can't have darts all over the field. You can't be messing up our court. Totally understandable. Although it would have been so cool to have like spectators in the stands and have like a jumbotron above us with like scores and stuff and timer, but they did have a section in the back of the venue, which was in some of the upper bleachers. The upper bleachers could collapse, and it would expose a practice court that the team would use instead of the main court. So they allowed us to use that, which was really good. The good thing about that, too, is it had, because it was collapsible bleachers, it had two walls that surrounded the bleachers that collapsed for a third wall. And then it had this giant curtain that was maybe 25, 30 feet tall from ceiling to floor that covered the fourth kind of zone, and it was completely encapsulated within that. So any darts that were in the field stayed in the field. Any noise, any spectator kind of action all stayed within the field itself, which was great. Didn't kind of bleed over into the arena, didn't bleed over into FoamCon. So it kept in all the noise, all the player commotion, and all the darts from the event. So that was probably really great for cleanup, and administration probably loved that. Because of the curtain and stuff and just like the space itself, I wouldn't say there was a ton of room for spectators as a result, because there was no room for spectators on the collapsed bleacher wall. And then you had the refs on the other wall, and they had to have their own line, as well as the coaches. So like the spectators were kind of pushing the curtain out, which is not the easiest thing. But otherwise, the competitors, from what I saw, behaved well and were very sportsmanlike, which is always good for the optics of this sport. The banters I had with spectators during and after rounds was really fun, especially with the refs. My friend Nico was a ref this year, and some people like Panda, I think, were reffing. So they were like really funny and were like having a good time. So I'll stop yapping about the beginning. I'll just throw in some footage of what I got, and so you can kind of see the field and what the action was like.
Right side, moving, right. Ooh!
Hey, they're pushing right, pushing. They're out, go push. Go! They're out. Right B might have one shot.
So Ion Rush, the game type that Foam Pro Tour plays, is definitely favored a lot more campy play for the current meta. So there's not a lot of dynamic action I could really grab. So what you see is what you get. The refs for the event did a fantastic job. Again, shout out to Nico and Panda and the other refs that I didn't get the names of. They were very intentional about calling the right tags and were very attentive of the players on the field with their role. I also wanted to shout out FlyingChicken and Crutches, and I think probably one other photographer I didn't get the name of, who were all on the scene taking plenty of photography during the engagements. They seemed like they had a good time. A lot of their photos were really good. And congrats to the teams who competed. It seemed like, again, there's a really cool kind of, narrative going on with some of the teams who compete against each other. A lot of the teams have competed multiple times at this point. So it's cool to see that kind of develop into a real kind of rivalry. So when the bracket had concluded and the dust was settled, there was an agreement between the UNC COG Mod Team and Drax Foam Pro Tour Mod Team that they would do their own match against each other at the end of the event. Because they already had the field set up, why not do it? It was great to see the competition loan their blasters and darts to make that happen. So, again, it was like 5-on-5, as is standard for Ion Rush. Same kind of rules. Drax team, which is a lot of people I know. And then the UNC Charlotte Mod Team.
Yeah! Where's this blaster?
So they all had like really competitive blasters, except for Pat on Drax team, who had no blaster and just had a handful of darts. Not sure what he planned on doing with that, but round one starts, and I see him just throw darts. He's just chucking darts at people, and he's not doing too bad. He was not doing bad with it.
Oh, I almost got it. Got it, baby. Ow!
And he's getting tags. He got one tag in round two, and then I think there's one person left, so he sprints ahead, and they're in like one of the back barriers. He sprints to the back barrier. They don't see him. And he reaches over and throws the darts, just a whole handful of darts, and throws it at them and tags them out as like the final out. And everyone was like so excited. I was going nuts. So I'm just really glad I got that on camera.
Oh no!
The ringer is out. Jesus. What the hell? So I think that was a great way to kind of end things. That was kind of like, all right, like, FoamCon should be done now, or at least they have like another 30 minutes, and then we should be done here. So it was a fun way to kind of finish things off. Some of the critiques I would have of both FoamCon and Foam Pro Tour. One thing that I thought would have been really cool is in the Halton Arena space where FoamCon was at, they had these like TV screens at a lot of the main pillars or intervals between the tunnels. It would have been really cool if we could have gotten a live stream done for the event. They couldn't get it done in time, and I don't think they could have even gotten access to those TVs, but it would have been really cool for everyone to be in FoamCon and then look up and see people competing just the next room over. But if we can't get all the logistics together next year, what could be really cool at least is if we can get access to those TVs, put the challenge, which has, you know, the bracket of all the teams competing on that TV, or maybe have some graphics of like their logos and be like, next team up, next heat up is this team, you know, up next is this, grand finals is happening. So that way people who are at FoamCon, especially vendors who are busy doing other things, can go, oh, I do want to watch grand finals. Someone, you know, keep up with my booth, I'm going to go over and watch that. So I think it would have allowed people versus me having to like constantly go back and forth to figure out which team is up and which team isn't. So one thing I mentioned last year that I thought was also a really easy change and really easy fix is I couldn't find a student union last year because it was my first time on campus and I couldn't find where to park. And I was like, all you need to do is just have those little yard signs with like the little metal poles and like the kind of like foam corrugate board, and just have like FoamCon this way, student union for FoamCon and Endwar this way. And I think they did it, if I remember, they did it this year. So hats off to y'all for doing that slight change. It made it a lot easier to figure out where Halton Arena is, because I didn't go there last year, so good for you. Parking itself was still a little iffy. I know they gave some information, gave some emails, especially to the vendors, but the parking deck is not the easiest thing to locate. So I thought I was in the right spot, but I didn't see any like Endwar people, FoamCon people, Nerf people, so I was like, I assume I'm in the right spot. I assume I don't have to pay parking, but I don't know. And I saw some people at the loading dock that I was like, are you all Nerf people? But I didn't ask them because I was like, I don't know. They didn't seem like it, but I guess they were. And then because the only entrance to FoamCon was at the very front of the arena, I had to walk all the way from the back where the parking deck was all the way to the front to figure out if that was the right location. And luckily I did, but I ended up having to walk back and forth 3 times to walk there, figure out if I was in the right place, and then 2 more times to grab all my stuff. And again, it was really hot, so that walk sucked. I realized I probably could have used the loading dock, but I didn't really know that was accessible to us. But in the future, maybe some signage that says like, vendors go this way, could maybe help. Just as Grand Finals started, my friend Nick, with his carpool of his other friend Sebastian, who competed with us last year, and his other friend Nick showed up, which was good because they were my Airbnb crew. So I knew that, well, they're here, I can actually go to the Airbnb now after this event. We finally got back to our Airbnb, which was nice. Got to finally put my stuff down. It was a long day. It's some pretty interesting art at that Airbnb for sure. So then a couple hours later, we all went out to dinner together with a lot of people. Alex from Detroit Dartworks was there. Folks at Silver Fox were there. Just kind of like we all went to the same brewery at the same time. So that was cool. We all had fun. And then we were going to get ready for Endwar the next day.
Oh! You can't be up there. Go! Go! 15 left! Push through! Push through! We have push through!
Oh, jeez.
Oh,